Sports Lab for the only weekly sports talk radio show that is dedicated to exploring the sporting HBCU diaspora, including the marching sports with its unique HBCU culture, identity, teams, the bands, coaches, athletic directors, commissioners, provost, presidents, big rivalry matchups, classic game, homecoming events, and much, much more of the HBCU athletic aesthetics. As we emerge our lecture with the sports business practices in the competitive sports industry, the show seeks to provide innovative, progressive, and informative dialogue about the week's HBCU sporting events, issues, and ideas from a fan's perspective. We review the Southwestern Athletic Conference, better known as
the SWAC, Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, better known as the MEAC of the NCAA Division I, Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, SIAC, the Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association, the CIAA of the NCAA Division II, Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, GCAC of the NAIA, and independent programs, such as Tennessee State of the OVC, Hampton of the Big South, Langston of the Sooner Athletic Conference, and Texas College affiliate member, as well as Edward Waters as they transition from NAIA to NCAA Division II, and membership in the SIAC. And for 2001-22, North Carolina A&T, part of the Big South, Florida A&M, FAMU, part of the SWAC. Boy, I tell you, things are changing, and what I'm hearing, it won't stop. The FCS is moving, and that's not just HBCUs. Heard Big South announced Robert Morris is joining the conference. So this churning that we've seen maybe a half decade ago in terms of what we refer to as Power Five has now hit the FCS level, and I wonder how much of that is just the nature of things churning, as we call conference churning, and how much of that is attributed to COVID-19, which is continuing to be at a high level and a pressing issue that we'll come across, and we'll get a chance to maybe dive in a little more as we will have attorney John Hall bring us his perspective of what this means from many different angles for people involved in athletics, particularly at the collegiate level. We might even get to touch a little bit of the high school level, as it was just brought to my attention. Chris Gardner, that does a lot of the work for us in the background, shared with us that we have the first announcement of an independent school district. And for those that are not familiar with Texas, that is the district, the way they break down high school in Texas on the public school side is ISD. In this area, you talk about HISD, which is Houston, one of the larger ones in Texas and really across the country for that matter. But Crum, ISD, student athlete tests positive for COVID-19. And here it goes in a lot of ways that we start to understand. Obviously, the athletic director spoke out. The superintendent, Mike Davis, was announcing that the student that was experiencing symptoms, or was not experiencing symptoms, I should say, but was exposed to COVID-19 outside of Crum ISD facility. I'm not sure how he knows that or not, but I guess maybe they've already did some testing to figure out where it came from, but where he contacted it, the student. Any student, male or female, is going through the weight room, quote Davis said in a phone interview Tuesday afternoon. Consequently, once it was known and the test came back, we were notified June 15th. We've got an extensive sanitation program that we use daily in there or after every setting that these kids do. Then we go to electrostatic spray that we'll do every day. So they're making plans, I guess, to move forward. But it is fascinating, and we will continue to hear these things throughout. And I have prayers that somehow this will work out. Talk to my brother, that's the head coach, Waco ISD. He's praying literally every day that he can do whatever's necessary to protect his athletes. And I'm just amazed at the political naivety of us needing to move forward with athletics about the business of this country, particularly when it involves young people.
Right.
Right. At the interscholastic level, obviously, AAU level, youth level, and even at the collegiate level, to be frank with you, because they're not paid individuals, particularly when you talk about the Power 5. But I wanted to kind of open up with that. Thought it was big news. So with that, we'll shift to Mike. And Mike, do you have some HBCU news that you wanted to share with us today?
Yeah, hard to top that, Doc. And CB, big announcement. The Indianapolis Colts have announced that former Alabama A&M defensive end standout Robert Mathis will be inducted into the Colts Ring of Honor. So big-time recognition for Mr. Mathis. He was a fifth-round draft pick from a small college and he grew to be one of the most effective and feared defensive linemen in the NFL. And this was courtesy of HBCU Game Day. It was on HBCU Sports. You saw it all across social media. So he becomes the 17th honoree in the Ring of Honor, and he is now scheduled to be inducted on November 22nd for the Packers game, Green Bay game against the Green Bay Packers, if things go according to the NFL schedule. Mathis is one of Alabama A&M's most recognized alumni. If you read all the Twitter boards and all of that, he'll be the first name that most Alabama A&M alumni will toss up. Mathis was a 4-year starter at Alabama A&M's defense, and he emerged as one of the most prominent pass rushers in the SWAC. In 39 games at Alabama A&M, Mathis recorded 221 tackles, setting a program record with 44 sacks and 24 fumbles. So, as a senior in 2002, Mathis set a Division I AA record with 20 sacks, and he's the franchise's franchise meaning Indianapolis Colts all-time sack leader. He played 14 years with the Colts. Big kudos to him and his family, and Bulldog Nation for that matter. So,
no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, that's kudos. Got to give it a shout out. I got to see him play in the SWAC championship game, boy. That was
got to see him play as well. That was
real deal then. But I know he's become a Ring of Famer, potentially a Hall of Famer. In my book, certainly should be a Pro Football Hall of Famer. I had no idea, but man, that brother is talented, and it's good that the kudos are coming with him because well deserved.
No doubt about it.
With that, let me shift over to Charles.
Sure. And
see what news he has available for us.
Yeah, other big news coming this week. Jackson State Snacks. He knocked off Simone Biles.
Big Snacks
in the ESPY Awards race to advance to the Final Four. The can't stop watching moment for the 2020 ESPYs. So that was a huge thing for Snacks, and I have to say the Jackson State alumni and HBCU alumni all over the place was doing their job in terms of voting for this feel-good moment for that young man. Got an opportunity to talk to him over the weekend. He's really excited about it, and just to advance beyond that Simone Biles. Now he's in the Final Four with 5th-seeded Raleigh Sergeant Vaughn, the 10th-seeded Newton High School football team, and Obed Lekale, which is the 11th seed. He's a rollerblader. But you get an opportunity to go to those to the ESPN website to vote for Snacks.
No doubt about it. I got some anecdotal notes on that. You saw where Commissioner Dr. Charles Cullen got out there and provided some information about supporting that. So HBCUs are doing their thing. He had, like, at that time, over 3,000 hits really quick. The mayor, Jackson State, got out there and did his thing. He only had 1,000, so it's interesting to see that comparison. I think you all talked about that on the 1400 Club.
Oh, yeah.
You should shout out the work you're doing over there, Charles. That was interesting. So wanted to point that out and make sure we gave you some love there. Also, thought it was fascinating with the SWAC in terms of what they're getting done, and they sent out that information about social media platforms and how the SWAC was second at the FCS level, above several FBS programs. I thought that was a significant and huge statement when you talk about that. And last thing I want to add some contexture to that is join the BCSN sports crew of Brian and AD as they have a conversation with ESPY Award nominee Thomas Snacks Lee, as I like to say, Big Snack, on the show. That's Wednesday, June 17th at noon Eastern time, right? Noon Eastern time, so that's 11 o'clock Central for you all. On the Jericho Broadcast Network, right here where we are part of the family, broadcast Sports. Catch it on Facebook at either JBN Jericho Broadcast Network, Black College Sports Network, BCSN Sports Lab, and Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. You can watch it at my JBN online. So just to show that we're doing our part, Charles, so we don't hear any of all that to say that Dr. Cavil, along
Thank you, Dr. Cavil.
are not doing our part for Jackson State University.
No doubt about it.
We're not worthy.
Karen Thomas, Snacks, Lee Big Snacks, is doing what he needs to do because he's done it the right way. Love in different ways finds you. So kudos for that. Before we start to get ready to get to our guest right at 15, we'll bring him in and give you some information. Mike, did you have any other additional news that you wanted to get out there?
Yeah, before we get into really one quick, you've heard a lot about NASCAR, and they're banning the Confederate flag earlier this week, and which is big. We don't talk about NASCAR, typically in the HBCU setting, but here on the heels of their ban of the Confederate flag, they've made another important announcement. The racing organization announced this on Tuesday that Brandon Thompson, who is a Clark Atlanta U grad, will take over the newly appointed role of Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion. So this puts him in charge of strategy for diversity and inclusion, as well as programs designed to enhance diversity within NASCAR. Now, he also organized a pit crew combine, which I had to look this up. I didn't even know it existed, for Clark Atlanta student athletes. It was a chance to give those kids exposures, but good recognition to him. Some of the camps have led to former HBCU athletes making it into motorsports in the last few years. So Brianna O'Leary, a former softball player at Alcorn State, and Brianna Daniels, a former Norfolk State basketball player, have both caught in the tire changing crews. Daniels made history as the first African American female in history to do so. He's making inroads by creating programs within NASCAR. So whether you think it's political, strategic, whatever, it is a tremendous move for this alumnus of Clark Atlanta U, and some of those other African American females who are making strides and inroads in NASCAR.
Man, I'm glad you brought that up. That's certainly timely, especially when you just talked about what NASCAR did in terms of the Confederate flag.
Yeah.
And so it seems like NASCAR is serious about moving forward with diversifying their sport, specifically, as I like to make sure when we talk about diversity, when we're referring to HBCU, black institutions, African American, black people across the diaspora, that not only they're talking about diversifying in multiple ways in terms of different ethnicities as well as gender, they're talking about doing it with African Americans. That's big. So with that, without further ado, let's bring on our guest. So we certainly don't want to be rude, but let me give you some introduction. This is John C. Hall II. He is the founding partner of Hall Law Group, located in Jackson, Mississippi. I should have figured somehow.
The Jackson connection.
Let's see what else comes up.
I smell Jackson connection.
He was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, Chi-Town, and has lived in Mississippi for more than 25 years. And so he's basically been in Mississippi longer than he was in Chicago. John is a 1996 graduate of Jackson State University, where he worked in the Sports Information Department, witnessing the rich tradition of JSU athletics and legendary JSU sports figures such as Lindsey Hunter and Lester Holmes. Charles, did you write this?
It does sound like my writing, doesn't it? But I'll get it.
Welcome to the show, John. In all seriousness, as you see, we take care of business and we discuss about HBCU sports, but we like to have fun when we do it.
Appreciate it, gentlemen, for having me.
Yes, what we wanted to do today, and I'll summarily pass it on to Charles to our conversation today. A lot of this COVID-19 athletics, whether it's at the interscholastic level or intercollegiate level, which is where we focus a lot of our time, obviously we've been talking about what does this mean in regards to how different institutions are making their decision in terms of the legality of a lot of this. So we wanted to get your expertise to walk us in various scenarios on how you see this playing out and what institutions are considering. Obviously, institutions have their general counsel, which is essentially an attorney that looks at the legal aspect of that. We have private attorneys like yourself and those that have their own firm, large attorney firms. You know, what does all this mean when you look at it from the NCA, even to some degree at the professional level, institutional level, individuals and their parents, those individuals that are coming in to watch this? We wanted to really take a deep dive into what that looks like for the next 12, 15 minutes, if you would allow us. So with that, Charles, if you would start us off with your question, and then I'll have Mike and myself jump in here with some follow-up questions.
Yeah, John, and I wanted to ask this question. One of the things that came up this past week was the Ohio State University, in terms of they had their athletes sign an agreement, if you will, in terms of them working out at their facility and things of that nature. And I just wanted to kind of ask, kind of give us kind of a look at what universities are going to have to be dealing with this COVID-19 situation, the indemnity agreements, things of that nature, or whatever the case might be. But what exactly is the university's role here?
The university is just like any other business, and they're going to balance the interest of safety with the business of making money. Like any other grocery store, a restaurant, an accounting firm, a law firm, you have to take into consideration the risks. Now, the novel thing about coronavirus is it's only been around 7-8 months, and you have a lot of lawsuits already that have been filed by people alleging that they've been exposed. So one of the things that these schools, such as Ohio State, and I think SMU is also required the kids to sign these waivers. The question is going to be, is that mitigation enough? For instance, before you even have the kids come back, the universities have to do their jobs with respect to following the national guidelines, with respect to, cleaning the premises, or maintaining the social distancing, requiring masks, etc. Not until you cross that threshold, then you can start talking about bringing the kids in. Now, as far as the waivers of liability, when you waive liability, one of the things that has to be considered is, are you freely and voluntarily waiving your rights? And to be honest with you, we don't know enough about this to waive our rights. So you can sign this agreement for a virus that has been out 7 months. Like I said, we were out in June. They didn't start shutting businesses down until March, but all of a sudden you're going to ask an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid to sign his rights away simply so he can do summer workouts. So that's what you're looking at. You have other schools, I think they're just opening it up. I want to say Ole Miss and some of the SEC schools, they just said, all right, kids, come back, trying to maintain the social distancing and requiring the masks, but not necessarily asking them to sign that waiver. I don't know how enforceable that waiver will be at the end of the day anyway. That there was a statement earlier today, you have the lawyers looking at it, and, if I had a client, or if I represented Jackson State, and they have very, very good counsel there right now, he and I talk all the time, that's something that he needs to be thinking about. Now, whether or not you require kids to sign a waiver, to me, that's more of a PR than a real safety issue, because you have these kids signing a national letter of intent to come play for school.
So, John, your volume has went down a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're getting into the crux of that component of your saying with your client, Jackson State.
Yeah, well,
now you're back in. That's good.
Okay, saying you have to be careful, and the question is it a PR issue or is it a safety issue? And to have a kid sign an agreement on top of their national letter of intent, it doesn't look good. And if I'm a parent with a child up there, I've already signed his rights away. I would be really skeptical of signing that agreement. But again, these kids are looking at going pro, or they don't want to let their teammates down. So inevitably, I think you will see a lot of these student athletes signing these agreements and taking that risk.
Wow. I think you really provided a glimpse in multiple ways of looking at it. With that, let me let Mike jump in here and ask a follow-up question.
Yes, Mr. Hall, thank you again for coming on the show. My question is one on negligence and liability when it comes to opening the doors to fans and other parts of the normal year that involve interaction. What is the line for negligence that organizations, schools, i.e. schools, must not cross in the eyes of the law? And what per se are you looking for in terms of preventing that negligence on the behalf of institutions?
Right. So in essence, whenever you invite someone onto your premises, whether it be your grocery store, gas station, your sports arena, you have a duty to provide reasonable, safe premises. Okay? And reasonable safety is in the eye of the beholder. So again, with this coronavirus, what's reasonable? Is requiring everybody to wear a mask reasonable? Is requiring half of your population or your venue's capacity, is that reasonable? Is it reasonable to have 100 people outside taking temperatures before people come in? You have to think about all those things. I think that the CDC has created some guidelines at a minimum, and all of us are familiar with that now, to see if it's reasonable. For instance, we have there's a presidential rally coming up this weekend. Don't think that these owners of these teams aren't watching to see if there's going to be a spike in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or even with these cities with the protests. Because just speaking bluntly, you have some of these decision makers thinking, all right, we're going to let some of these people be guinea pigs to see. A lot of these protesters have masks on, but we're going to see if those masks actually protected or prevented a big spike. With the political rally, though, that's a little bit different. They are supposed to be, doing the temperatures and requiring masks, but I'm sure that the owners will also be looking to see what fallout comes of that. Another thing to look at, you have professional teams with these CBAs and the collective bargaining agreements. You notice that the Major League Baseball Association and NBA, NFL, they're not requiring them to sign some waiver and say, all right, get back on the field. Fans, it's a little different. Like I say, you kind of come, you assume the risk and come if you will. And I think that's what the owners are banking on. That told you to be safe. If you show up and get sick, it'll be really hard to prove, number one, that you were actually exposed in an arena in the first place. So with any type of environmental claim, that's good.
Yeah, that actually was a question that I was going to follow up on in terms of, is there a way to prove, that you contracted COVID during the field of play of some sort? I was curious in terms of projecting out. Do you think those will be the crux of lawsuits going forward?
Well, I think
that's a great point when you asked that, Charles, to jump in there, because we had that statement with the ISD student in Texas. Was the first student that they listed as getting it. And one of the things the superintendent said real quick was they did not get it here. Yeah. So they were trying to make the rule, because now you have to prove that you got it there. As Charles, your question is, so I'd love to hear your answer to that, Attorney Hall.
It's like any other environmental claim. If you're working in a factory and you think that you got asbestosis, prove you got it here, you have lung problems as a result of that, or versus your lung problems are emphysema for smoking for 25 years. Those environmental claims are going to be so difficult to prove. And you have, like I say, plants opening here in Mississippi. Folks are claiming, I got sick on the job. Well, again, you have to prove that, that you got sick on the job, as opposed to sick when you went out to lunch with your coworkers, or sick carpooling on the way with your coworkers. So I think that will be the $1 million question as far as, can you really prove it? And you also, that's one thing, you have to prove that you were exposed at that particular place.
Wow.
Man, that's a powerful statement when you bring that up. I want to look at it as more of a macro level. You may or may not have been privy that the California conference out there at the Division II level announced that they were canceling the fall season due to COVID-19. I'm hearing some rumblings that there is a MEAC institution that is talking about not playing football or maybe not playing its sports. I'm looking to confirm that, but we already know California, so they did it for sure. But the question I'm asking you, while it may be challenging that you have to prove it, but we always know that a case can be put on the table. How much cost do you see incorporated the fact that institutions will, regardless, have to look at defending the institution against these claims? And how much money can you imagine would be associated with that? And why you may have some institutions saying that we don't even want to have to deal with going through the circle of dealing with these claims because the cost of mitigating them, even regardless if you win or lose the lawsuit, is high in a threshold in itself.
I think what you're going to see, gentlemen, is the next legislation, the next big piece of legislation that comes to the Congress be some blanket immunity by some recovery. Just like with the vaccine, kids with autism, there's immunity for those manufacturers, and the easy litigation is to lobby legislators and change the law. It's way cheaper hiring a lobbyist than hiring a lawyer on the back end. You just change the law, and it's no harm, no foul.
So that's a great point as we close you up and maybe give you any last thoughts there. As you were kind of maybe going out a little bit, I want to summarize the fact that you, and I heard a little bit about this too, that you hear a lot of these presidents of the universities, and I'm sure some other businesses as well, trying to lobby the legislative, particularly the Senate, since they're the one pushing to open everything up, and the Vice President Pence, as the presidents and chancellors of these institutions, along with some athletic directors, were there, and they were concerned about the fact that they may get sued. And so, as you pointed out, is one way to do that is to change the legal statutes, the legislative statutes, particularly at a federal level, that holds people harmless so that you can't sue. And I think that's the assumption that you're bringing up there for those that may not heard the total component of what you're saying, which is extremely important and for the people to follow so they can understand that you have one side where people saying, get out there, open up your business, have funds, but at the same time, we're doing what we hear a lot, that they're protecting the businesses in a lot of ways, irregardless of whether you get sick based on what they're doing, which is fascinating. Any closing thoughts that you wanted to share for us, Attorney Hall, before we let you go?
Potential closing down athletics, etc. It's going to hurt HBCUs more than any other university, because at an HBCU, we sell the experience. And when you don't have those games, you don't have the tailgates, you don't have the band, that's one of the major selling points of our universities. And without that, you're still going to have people going to the schools, but that is, I think that will hurt HBCUs more than in any other secondary institution.
Thank you. That's a great point, and I've been saying that from the beginning, particularly with our HBCUs, is it's going to be a huge tell in terms of enrollment. It's a driving factor in our institutions overall, but particularly in athletics, when you're talking about 75 to 85% of your athletic budget comes from directly the number of students you have enrollment. So the point you're making, in my opinion, is right on point. Thank you for sharing it and giving us a legal perspective of what it means to tangle with COVID-19 from an institutional perspective, particularly as it governs intercollegiate athletics and to some degree interscholastic, even a professional level, as you touched on. And what does that mean for our HBCU institutions specifically? So I wanted to personally thank you for your time, Attorney John C. Hall from Chicago. Chi-Town, living in Jackson, Mississippi, Hall Law Group. So check him out. Contact him if you need some help. You see that he's very knowledgeable about this, so I'm sure he would certainly entertain you calling to see however he could be of service to you. So check him out. He is in Jackson, Mississippi, graduate of Jackson State University. Go Tigers. Thank you.
No doubt. Thank you, John.
I'll say thank you, Attorney Hall, but I won't say go Tigers.
Say, man, it don't start till the fall, man. You can football, basketball. It ain't starting yet.
Thank you, John.
Thanks,
Tell him, man. Tell him you sit out there and saw Lindsey Hunter and Lester Holmes. Tell him to stay out. Thank you. As we move forward a little bit on that, let's take a little deeper dive in it in terms of what's coming next in a little bit. Any final thoughts either one of you want to share? I'll start with you, Mike. Any thoughts after listening, or what are your thoughts moving forward on it?
Yeah, he spoke to an area that I'm really familiar with. We deal with a lot of environmental law, injury law in my other profession, and he's absolutely right. It's on the burden of proof is sometimes to prove whether your injury resulted there. The other issue that we really haven't delved on is legal issues related to COVID-19, insurance policies, insurance issues, and insurance claims. That's a whole nother enchilada that's going to arise with the restart of college sports. Will claims be denied, especially if someone claims that they were injured or they suffered some kind of illness as a result of COVID-19, as a result of their performance in an environment that they shouldn't have been in. So that's a whole nother. I wonder where we go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure that I'm clear. I know I talked about the conference. That's the Midwest Athletic Conference, MAC. Just wanted to make sure it's clear in case I sat out there and said Mid-Eastern. I want to make sure that we already got enough folks concerned about the MEAC over there. No, we're not putting that out there. Midwest Athletic Conference, MAC. So, Charles, any closing parts on that segment that you wanted to share in terms of your thoughts of the legal aspects of COVID-19 in college athletics?
Yeah, I think John and Mike both touched on it. As in terms of how can you actually prove that it happened during the course of play. And Mike, you touched on another aspect that I don't think a lot of people talk about it in terms of insurance claims. Will these claims be denied? I know one of the things I was thinking about when he was talking was if a school decides to fight you in terms of that claim, how much brand damage does it do to that school? So
exactly,
these are a lot of things that you kind of think about as you go through. As I don't have any doubt that there will be numerous claims going forward.
That's a great point. They don't have to worry about me trying to sue in terms of my son playing in any athletic events because he's not playing. So he can't catch it. He might. Something happen. God forbid. It ain't going to because of that.
You're right.
And at this point, it's going to take a long component of me to say that I'm going to go cover some stuff. I'm going to just hope that a lot of stuff is on television if they decide to play, because then we'll find a way to make sure that we deliver the content. We're going to do that. But thinking that your boy going to be there, I lost 50 pounds to kind of help in case emergency happens. I got to deal with it. I got a little more to go before I feel a little more secure. They talking about how these folks, you got these preconditions. I might be preconditioned, exposed in the wrong area. And I don't want to take them kind of chance.
Dr. Bill, we hear so many times of people contracting COVID and they were asymptomatic. They never knew they had it until they're tested, and 2-3 days later they find out, I'm carrying this virus. So it's unprecedented. It's tough time.
The other thing you should
it's a reason why we had to change the format of the show and bring it to where we were podcasting from home. It's real.
Yeah.
Y'all can play all the games you want to. Dr. Cavil just sees the stuff a little differently. Respect for all those that want to get out there and test the waters. Let me know.
The one thing I will add.
Let me know. I'll be here to tell the people what you think. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, one point just to close out is you see a lot of corporations testing people as soon as they show up at the door. to determine the presence before. Those folks can go home. When college students arrive and fly there, what are you gonna do? Tell them you ain't got it. You got to fly home. I mean, what are you gonna tell them?
Oh boy, that's a great point. That is a great point. How are you gonna deal with it in regards to institutional perspectives? Wow, it is going to be one for the ages in regards to what we are seeing now. With that, let's transition into a different aspect. Still, in a lot of ways, dealing with COVID-19, at least in my perspective, or I want to see if you see a tie between the two, is the fact that let's look at we have these HBCUs cutting these programs.
Yep.
Particularly cutting non-revenue programs. We saw this at the Olympic level. We saw it start with what I refer to as historically white colleges and universities. And so I want to get your thoughts before we jump back in, see what our viewers that are following us, what their thoughts on some of this and bring in their commentaries. But before that, I want to see from you, Charles, as we just recently heard about Hampton, and we're starting to hear other institutions, SWAC, Pine Bluff, talking about
Pine Bluff,
sports, right? So, Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of what is taking place with these non-revenue sports being cut at HBCUs? What does that mean? Is that a short-term thing, or you think that's something that will end up going a while? Because you look at what Hampton put out there, they talked about how much it would cost to bring it back.
Wow. I think that's the concerning part. I mean, if once these programs start getting dropped, whether they can actually come back. I know, I'm a huge golf fan, and my heart was broken when Jackson State dropped their golf program, and they still have not brought it back, and that was a few years back now. So, what's very concerning to me, Hampton dropping golf. I think Arkansas Pine Bluff dropped their tennis program, and we're seeing sort of this trickle that's becoming more and more and more as to whether those programs actually come back or if it's a temporary sort of deal. And I would say at this point, from what I've seen thus far, it's not temporary.
Yeah.
Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and we talked about it on the show about a month ago. We're a month and a half in, and here we're starting to see tangible examples of this taking place, where you have Hampton cutting program, men's and women's golf, and then UAPB, but there's 25 other programs. There's Florida International, East Carolina, there's University of Cincinnati, Furman, University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. There's other institutions, and one of the things we talked about was the Power Five may be equipped to survive this, but the other programs may not be equipped to survive this. But we said that HBCUs may be used to being flexible. Here we see two examples of two HBCUs, but even they are going to be impacted. I'm afraid to say that I think we're still seeing the tip of the iceberg. There may be a few more before it's said and done. That is my deepest fear. There may be a few more examples of UAPB and Hampton cutting tennis, golf, in some cases maybe even baseball, God forbid.
Yeah, we've seen baseball go down. Yeah, not so much of HBCUs.
That's a great point when you're talking about baseball.
Yeah.
So a lot of moving parts out there. It'd be interesting for baseball in the SWAC because it's so big,
right.
In regards to popularity. So it'll be major in regards to seeing that take place in the SWAC. Let me give a shout out for those folks that took the time out to check us out today. Jimmy Wilson, Chris Gardner talked about him sharing that article with us. Chuck Hunt is always very dedicated. Stephon Robinson, getting into the marketing promotions guru at Texas Southern University, good colleague, friend of ours, telling him who wants that smoke, as he has that in his blood down there. I saw that the Bayou Classic is going to be moved out of New Orleans, and we're going to take a little deeper dive in that. We'll come back, Chuck, and talk about that a little deeper to see what's going on. We got Cliff Franks. We're going to have him on in a couple of weeks talking about his show. He played basketball at Prairie University back in California doing his thing. Had some great interviews that he's going. Want to get his perspective of what his take is moving forward, COVID-19, what's going out on the West Coast, and recruiting components on that. You got Roy Evans chiming in here talking about Norman Handy, those kind of things going on. Hillman Frazier, go Tigers. Jimmy Wilson, just don't see Any sports this fall? Yeah, you've been consistent with that. Then he chimes in. If y'all don't believe Fat Meat Greasy, he makes sure 1,100 of the 1,400 ICU beds in Grand Houston are occupied. So he just letting you know that he reads data and statistics. Mike, you familiar with that? You like that kind of thing?
Yes, I am.
Jimmy also says it's all about the budget. Willie Alex Hines is checking us out. Appreciate you. And so Roy Evans continues to put in the work there. Anthony Johnson, is Valley dropping any sports? No, I have not heard about Valley dropping any sports in regards to what they have going down in the Delta. Jimmy Wilson says you drop the coach's salary, players' scholarships, and equipment before you drop sports. That's interesting.
Interesting.
Power 5, you did see him taking cuts, but that hasn't been the case at the HBCU level. That's a different way to do it. Stefan says they are using the pandemic as an excuse to cut programs. He's
talked about that. Yeah.
Blunt with that. So we see that Stefan has been in the business long enough that he sees beyond the shade in a lot of ways. Anthony Johnson jumps in here and says golf budget isn't that big compared to sports like tennis, soccer, and bowling. Interesting perspective. Carlos Brown jumping in. Let me give Carlos Brown some love because he has been talking about bringing an attorney on his show. Carlos Brown that comes on every Saturday from 10 to 12. And one of the frameworks and the idea that we talked about doing the attorney, bringing him on, is because he brought it to the table and said that's a great avenue we need to do. So I want to give him shout outs for giving us the idea to do that. Ralph Cooper said he's sharing it through Facebook, so people are getting the chance to listen to us out there. So appreciate what you do, Ralph Cooper. Executive producer back in the studio, KCOH 12:30 a.m. Check him out, 5 to 7, Monday through Friday, because he's bringing the news to you, and he does it in a different way where you get the historic components. And he is one of those individuals that gets better with time. His show is just taking it to another level, doing
fine wine.
And yeah, exactly, with all everything going on there.
Exactly.
So if you want to see a different perspective, particularly as we're talking about the turbulent times going on and the interviews he's had, you can't get it any different. Roderick Byron Holmes, don't drop track. Yeah, he's a big track fan. If y'all don't know anything about Holmes, Dr. Holmes, I should say, mathematics specialist over there at Texas Southern University. Want to give him some love. Carlos is saying appreciate the love. Oh, you deserve that, Carlos.
Yeah.
Y'all check out his show now. Keep TSU Relays at all costs. Yeah, it's going to be challenged. TSU Relays is one of the biggest in the country, certainly biggest at HBCUs. So I'm sure you won't see that go on the wayside before other sports are chopping at the block. Soccer's a head count. That's right. Title IX sport, tennis, and golf are not, which is another reason why you see people going at golf, tennis, before you see them going after sports like soccer,
very good point.
If you would, softball, where you have more of the head count type of sports, will really helps you with Title IX. So thank you for bringing that to the table. So y'all keep them coming if y'all have some questions there. With that, let's get into this next segment. Chuck Hunt really brought this up, and so I want to go back in there and take a little deeper dive as we heard this coming at us in a lot of ways, which I thought was intriguing perspective with the Bayou Classic. So I want to get your thoughts on the Bayou Classic. Obviously, many people may not realize, but if you're at a public institutions, your board of regents, board of trustees, board of whatever they call it in different locations is open to the public. And so even though you have people doing Zoom essentially or some social media platform to cover the board of regents or board of trustees meeting, it's open to the public. So they have to do that open to the public. When it was open to the public without doing Zoom, many of them still streamed it in certain things, but you may not have the level of interest on certain things, obviously with FAMU and the discussion whether they were going to leave the MEAC and join the SWAC, which we know has come to culmination that will take place in 2021. And so I bring that to the front is Southern was doing a Zoom meeting, and AD Banks went out there and said that that the Bayou Classic will not be in New Orleans. Obviously, we understand that a lot of that is because COVID-19 and what was taking place specifically in New Orleans and where they're trying to move. in that if they were going to play the game, that it would likely be played in Baton Rouge or Shreveport, and if in Baton Rouge, it could be played on either the campuses or potentially LSU, which had a lot of other folks concerned about that. Before it got out too far on different media platforms, particularly our HBCU media platforms, such as HBCU Game Day, BCSN, put a statement out there where Brian was one of the first to tweet it out there to get that news out there. So you see HBCU media doing their part to make sure that you're informed. Was the fact that the consortium, if you would, at Bayou said, not so fast, a permanent decision has been made. So I thought that was fascinating. I want to go to Mike to get your thoughts on terms of, one, do you think the game will be played in New Orleans? And to some part, do you even think the game will be played? And the second part, what are your thoughts in terms of this mixed message going on with the institution saying one thing that actually, which is amazing to me because they are responsible for the athletic programs, and this third party entity is saying, no, not so fast. Like,
not so fast.
But I want to see how you bring that. I see Charles smuckering over this, so I want to make sure that he gets his content in. So, Mike, do what you do.
So, let me touch the first part, if you will, Doc. The first part is, will the game be played? In my desk, I haven't seen any evidence that it won't be played. Okay. The question is how will it be played, and how will it be affected? Because if you look at the three suggestions, with it Southern, Shreveport, and then LSU, and they're saying those locations because they can space people out. They've tried this at Tulane. They've tried it in Houston before, and they had some moderate success. But there is possible success with that. Will it sell as well? No. Will it go across? Will it be the brand that we? Absolutely. So from my perspective, I see nothing that says that I guess the university or the SWAC won't take the opportunity to gain some, not all of the usual revenue or income that comes with the Bayou Classic. I think it's just impossible just to turn that down and say, no, we're not going to have it yet. Not at this point when schools are opening up in the light of COVID-19. I still see nothing that says it won't happen to some degree. Now, having said that, I'm scratching my head on this. One side saying, we ain't going to have it. No, it's not going to have it. And the other one said, well, hold up. We ain't made this decision yet. Who's the decision holder? I don't even know what to tell you on that one. Because that
tickled me. I was like, man.
I mean, the other thing is if they move it and they have reduced crowd, you got media impacted, you got potential bans. You're going to move all of this and then try to space people out. It's going to be a challenge. I think it'll be a smaller version of itself if it does, and the revenue be reduced. If it has a chance, maybe you got a chance at LSU, but then who wants to really go to it if it's at LSU Stadium?
Yeah.
So
Mike threw that final little grenade out there.
That's my last report.
Go ahead and do your thing.
Who wants to go and play it at Tiger Stadium? Really?
And that's the thing. I know the Bayou Classic initial Tulane Stadium, but it's such a cultural deal planted at the Louisiana Superdome, and that must be acknowledged. It is one of the preeminent events within the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Do I want to see it played? Yes, I do. From a public safety standpoint, I'm real concerned as to whether it can be played going this upcoming season. I'm tremendously concerned in terms of especially the timing of the year. We're looking at, the medical experts, health experts are all saying we're going to see a resurgence,
a second
wave. So especially playing at that time of the year, November, if you will. So that part really concerns me as to whether the game can actually be played. The people holding the purse string are saying, hold up, it's still going to be played. So I get that. I completely and totally get that. I guess I would like to see if for the game to be played in some venue that allows for you to kind of space out your attendance, if you will. And we're seeing with the NFL, they're trying to come up with ways. I think, Governor Abbott here in Texas said, okay, we're going to play at Cowboy Stadium. You can space it out.
People.
49,000 or something to that effect. So, long story short, Dr. Bill, to answer your question, I would love to see the game played because it's such a cultural benchmark within the Southwestern Athletic Conference, within all of HBCU football. But from a public safety standpoint, I'm super concerned. I really am. I would love for my Southern Jaguars or my Grandma Tigers to get this game on, but
yeah,
I'm struggling. I really am. I'm really struggling, and I'm like Mike. I'm scratching my head to see how we're going to get this done during the course of the season. I don't want to see Big Mama show up at a classic, first game of the year, and then not be able to make it by homecoming. That's something that really concerns me. So I don't know going forward, and we have some of the most fervent fans in all of FCS football. We lead the attendance year in, year out. People are not going to go without their football, if you will. So in many cases, they're going to put themselves in harm's way, Dr. Bill. So, going forward, I'm still struggling. You can clean and clean and clean and clean, but there's no assurance.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Isaiah Thornton. Like I said, we're working on a project to see if we can do a professor and a student type of show. So just wanted to shout him out as he's excited about everything going on here. To your point, Jimmy wanted to make sure y'all knew, as you kind of say, the first wave isn't over yet.
Yeah,
people.
Second wave.
Yeah. As you can see, coming Texas and other places like that, we hitting record days, so it's obvious that it's not over it. But some people act like it isn't, so I think you're right that it needs to be stated, Jimmy. Willie says, do not know about it moving from the dome. It is something about the game played in the dome. Right? Yeah,
I acknowledge that.
Both of y'all said that. Very true there. But we shall see. I agree with Charles. It is risky. It is an event, battle of the band, step show, career fair. No doubt about it being an event. Brian jumps in here. You can't have 50,000 plus fans and practice social distancing.
Yeah.
Will not work in capital letters. The last three words will not work. So that's fascinating. So we'll keep seeing this and bringing you different perspectives of what's going on. We'll keep giving you updates. With that, as we start to transition and to recap the first hour of the show, as we transition and start to get ready to close for that top of the hour, as we transition to Callaway. Rob Callaway's, we'll bring him in at the top and let us know what he's going to do for his show in a lot of ways. Just wanted to put that out there. Jay Joyner officially resigns as North Carolina A&T's basketball coach.
Yep.
Some news out there. Any thought in that perspective of what took place there? We kind of understood what was going on. Really did a lot of good work. I hate to see this taking place, but obviously there's something to it. If he is in a position to have to resign, kudos to his assistant coach that made it probably much easier to move in a different direction as well as he did with the program.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charles. Jump in there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the assistant coach did a great job in terms of moving A&T forward. When a coach gets suspended, relatively early in the season, they didn't tank. They were able to finish second in the MEAC to a tough North Carolina Central basketball team. So, when Will Jones took over, he did a great job in terms of keeping A&T afloat and right there in the thick of things. They had a very good basketball team this past season. So it's unfortunate for Jay Joyner, but A&T, they kind of kept things moving. Like you said, it kind of made the decision probably easier in terms of going forward.
Certainly. Before I let you get your thoughts on that, Mike, wanted to pick up the other half of the Brian and AD show. AD said, oxymoron, 50 plus fans and social distance. So y'all need to check out their show. They bring, as we told you, in regards to having an interview with Big Snacks. Check them out at noon Eastern time. That's 11 o'clock Central, as they'll bring that interesting interview there and a lot of different other perspectives. With that, Mike, let me have you chime in this one, and if Charles, you want to as well, you can talk about that. Sources are saying that the ACC schools are looking to play at an HBCU on MLK in 2021. First, it came out with a Twitter with the fact that they were going to play HBCU, and you had a lot of people said, cut the check, or some people were saying it'd be really interesting if you play at HBCU. When it came out, the sources were saying indeed that they were going to play at a HBCU, all the ACC institutions, which is intriguing. What are your thoughts on this? As sources are reporting this has not been confirmed. What are your thoughts about even this going on?
Well, I'm intrigued. Number one, I'd actually like to see that happen. I mean, can you imagine University of Virginia showing up at a stadium and they see a DJ, they see the drum line, they see the cheerleaders. This is not a University of Virginia normal setting. So it at best is going to be culture shock. It could be kind of a potential revenue for the HBCU. I think it's iconic. It's playing on that day. I see possibilities with it. I don't know how dependable the sources say, because you see a lot of back and forth on the social media, but I don't know how dependable, but I think it's a good thing personally.
Charles, what are your thoughts? I see you smirking over there. You may not have the same feelings as Mike, so I want to hear exactly what you have to say.
No, I don't want to do it. I'll be real blunt. I mean, right now, the HBCU brand is super hot, and I'm not willing to give over that power to your Power 5 schools to come in, willing. Guess what? Let's do this on MLK Day. Okay, no thanks. I would love to see a North Carolina A&T and North Carolina Central on MLK Day. I would love to see Prairie View versus Texas Southern. I'd love to see ESPN show me 5 or 6 games of these real intense rivals. And Mike, you get everything that you want: the DJ, the drum line, the whole thing. But it's our 2 schools, so I'm not willing to see that go over just like that. Not that.
Yeah,
no sir.
No, they'll do it 1 year and steal all of our money. They'll steal our babies. They'll steal our songs.
I'm sick of tearing up our brand on MLK Day.
I think I talked me out of it. And I'm really usually not a fan of playing division, especially at football, because it's normally not good for the HBCU. The only thing in basketball may be potential uptake and exposure. Sure. Whereas that's the only selling point, I would think. But other than that, they come here, they steal like everything we got, and then they stop after year 2. So.
And then you watching the ACC game, they playing neck. I'm good.
Exactly.
I'm good.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, University of Virginia has a drum line. When did this happen?
I'm good.
Exactly. Let me get prepared to close it up as we get to the top of the hour. But stick with us, as we said, we'll do that transition piece. But as we start to come off the radio show, let me close it here with this note for everybody out there that I got to work on this project from the SWAC. With this 100 and the move as they move with full membership in 2021 with FAMU. So Charles was talking about the fact that the SWAC now has 3 law schools, which was big. And so I decided, let me dig about some of the other programs, and specifically the accredited programs, and what does the overall framework look at. So I was able to put this together. Kudos to the SWAC of taking it by the horns and posting it out there. So as we come to that part of the close, I would say notable academic programs in the SWAC. The Southwestern Athletic Conference will enter the 21-22 academic year as home to 2 architecture programs, 2 ACP accredited pharmacy programs, 3 PAB accredited urban planning programs, 3 ABA accredited law schools, 3 ACEJMC accredited journalism and mass communication programs, 4 sport management programs, 4 accredited ACN, CCNE nursing programs, 5 ABET accredited engineering programs, 6 AACSB accredited business programs, and 11 NCATE, we say NCRATE accredited education programs, and 11 political science programs academic programs offering over 600 undergraduate and graduate degrees for what will take place in the SWAC. So before y'all get a chance to give me some input, we're going to have Rob Calloway join us and get his thoughts on that and tell us about his show. But just want to say, as we close out on the air, KSWH 1230 AM Houston, Texas, as we close with the lecture part of the regular course, lecture dismissed, we're going to do a little after class set as we start to transition. So with that, as we transition off of the show at the top of the hour at 12:30 a.m. KSWH, Mike, and then Charles, and then I'm going to bring in Rob to do it the way only he can do, to tell us what are his thoughts. What are your thoughts? You know, you get all excited about the athletic programs, and I know that's what this is, an athletic conference. But think about, what does this mean from an academic perspective? As a professor, you know, I got excited when I started looking at all these academic programs going around. I said, "Oh, this is nice. So, Mike, what are your thoughts? Break that down, all this architecture, nursing, and, you know, you're an engineer, accredited ABET, you know, you get all fancy and stuff like that. What you think?
I was part of the, let's get one thing straight, Doc. I was part of the 1994 ABET accreditation of the School of Chemical Engineering. I just want to toss that out there. I'm not name tossing, but no, when you did a whole lot of alphabet tossing, but when you throw all of that in the mix, people always, I think you said it yourself, look at athletics. Now you're looking at academic prowess. Now you're adding to the branding, the overall, you really have just increased the robust branding capability of the SWAC. You know, I said by order of magnitude, by 2 orders of magnitude, because now you have the 3 law schools, you have the 5 engineering schools, you have the 3 PharmD schools. And so now you give students a chance. They're looking at, okay, now they got great football. Oh, they got great academic programs. You've increased the attractiveness exponentially. So that, to me, is what it does. And I think it is important to incorporate and roll that into the marketing plan of the SWAC, in addition to all of the other stuff that we normally see. So it's important that you brought that up.
Yeah, thank you. Charles, what are your thoughts?
What it tells me is you have all the components in place within this conference to take a student from A to Z in terms of getting them to into a professional setting. So 3 law schools, you have a number of architecture schools, engineering. To me, and Mike, you touched on it, the academic prowess of the conference is another selling point that has to be used within Dr. Cavil, to use your term, the HBCU diaspora, and really roll all that into the athletics as well, and to really highlight how great a conference this is.
Look at that. So we got the HBCU report, the man himself, Rob Calloway. Check it out live tonight, 7:15. That's Central Time. Is this coming at you, 8:15 Eastern Time, as he does what he does. He's going to talk tonight. Rob talks about the Bayou Classic, Big Snacks, Juneteenth, Shard Brooks, and more. Boy, I tell you, that's a lot of it. With that, before we get you to break down how you're going to do what you do, tell me, what did you think when, you know, we put up all those academic, you know, alphabet soup, as Mike says? What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah,
Calloway?
Y'all some smart Negroes. See, cats like I went to school to be in the band, so I was a music major, man. You know, we had to take 1 math class to be a music major, man. Like y'all way over my head, man. You know, but I get it. You know, because when you talk about, I mean, y'all made some valid points. When you talk about, you know, bringing fam over to the SWAC, now you have so many selling points now outside of just athletics. I mean, because, you know, the SWAC, while it's not really talked about because everybody thinks about athletics, but the SWAC does a really good job when you talk about academics. And then when you add fam in, who is arguably, you know, top 20, just institutions, period, not HBCUs or PWI, but top 20 just overall, when you talk about the pharmacy and the business school and all of that stuff, yeah, it puts the SWAC on a whole nother level. So, you know, I'm just a dumb trombone player, but I get it.
Man, I told you, y'all got to check out Rob Calloway, the HBCU report. I'm telling you, he brings the flair from a different perspective, but he's going to give you that hot HBCU news, and he's going to tell you just how he brings it. Andrew says this. I thought this, AD says this. I thought this was pretty hot. He said, I wonder how many people have 3 levels of degrees from 3 different SWAC schools. That would be fascinating to figure out if anybody can do that. With that, we might find a way to give you a gift if somebody can do that before, let's say before the show next week. If you can put this underneath the show, we'll find out some.
What about
if we can get you something?
Does participating in 3 different SWAC bands count?
Yeah. We'll get you something for that too. We're gonna make sure Rob gets you that. Over there. He might give his own gift.
Yeah, Rob, you on the hook for that one.
Yeah, so I can sit out there and say I got 5 degrees, but unfortunately it's only from 2 SWAC institutions, so I can't quite say I even qualify from that. But that was pretty cool. I like that. So what else you got for us, Rob? Give us some more, man. Tell us a little bit about where you going. We gave them a little hint. What can they expect?
I heard y'all talking Bayou Classic. I'm definitely going to be talking Bayou Classic, man, because I think it's going to be some trickle down, because everybody knows Bayou is the 2nd biggest classic in all the HBCU behind the Magic City Classic.
Don't tell Grambling folks that.
Yeah, don't say that. don't better be careful. You can say that too.
Look, to be very honest, it doesn't matter what. And look, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but look, man, I just read an article today that said that it was still people that was enslaved in Louisiana and in Mississippi in 1963, so they can't tell me anything, man. So, and speaking of Mississippi, Big Snacks. Look, man, this dude. Look, it was a great story. But I'm gonna just be very honest with y'all, and I don't know what y'all take is on this, but it's the rerun syndrome. I'm gonna talk about that on my show. Y'all know what rerun syndrome is?
Yes.
Yeah, I understand it. I think that's what Mike said. You gonna get Charles gonna get a little love. He got all his love.
Charles is the one to give you the looks.
Look. Further, at Alabama State, we have this group of girls that perform at the end of every performance, the honeybees, right?
Yes, we know.
And it's the same thing. It's the rerun syndrome. Why everybody loves them. And so we're gonna talk about that. I'm not sure. I know y'all heard about the whole Rayshard Brooks thing that happened here in Atlanta last Friday. The young that was murdered in the Wendy's parking lot. So I'm gonna touch on that briefly because I got to. I got to because it happened here and it's a black man, and and I'm here and I'm a black man. So definitely touch on that.
Talk.
But big shouts out. I had several of you all's listeners, man, been hitting me up, man. Chuck Hunt, I heard y'all talking about him, man. He been hitting me up, like shouts out to Chuck.
But yeah, real deal, man. Once he find out he got an HBCU angle, and you gonna give him some different news.
Right.
Oh yeah,
he gonna follow, and he gonna make sure that you up to date on some different news. And you talking about them 6 degrees of separation? This brother here is connected.
Really?
And I'm talking about with much respect. He finds a way. He be like, man, where you eat? Yep, he got it going on. To your comments, Rob, talking about that, Dwight Moore said, hey man, we are some smart musicians, engineers, computer science, law, business, name it. We all, at least at Southern, he say laugh and laugh, so he got a kick out of that. Rob is crazy. That's Chuck Hunt. Give me some love there. We ain't trying to hear all that Bayou. The white boy said, Rob is truly crazy. Thank you, Rob. Come on, Dr. Bishop. Check him. And say, man, he always told you. Hey, off your homeboy. Tell him to stay off the sip. That's a great tease. Don't be a hater. What Fraser says. So go ahead, Rob. Give it some more.
Hey, really quick. Look, the Bayou Classic. This is how you know it's not gonna happen. Look, you gotta kind of just think about it. There's something very interesting that happened with the Superdome not too long ago. Mercedes-Benz pulled their name off of it. Now here in Atlanta, we got a Maybach here in Atlanta, the Mercedes Stadium. Now that thing out in New Orleans, that thing was like an outhouse. It was like an outhouse at the Mercedes-Benz plant. So they went on and took their name off of that thing. So they were like, yeah, no Bayou in the toilet bowl this year. So it's Look, I'm being very honest with you. I think what's going to end up happening is we'll end up seeing some classic being played, and it might end up being a home and away situation where, like with the Bayou, they might end up playing the Bayou at Montford and then having down to god awful Grambling. The next ain't nothing in Grambling if y'all ain't never been. It's nothing in Grambling.
But Grambling. But Grambling.
And the same thing with like Alabama A&M, Alabama State. I could see them actually playing those games home and away, while Alabama State has a bigger stadium. The A&M, you gotta if you go home for one, you gotta let the other team do it before you go back to your natural series, in my opinion. And so I think the Bayou, whatever happens with the Bayou, is what we'll see with the Southern Heritage, with the State Farm, with the State Fit, and everything else, all the big boy classes, Florida Classic too. So that's about it.
Yep, no problem with that. As we get ready to turn it over, y'all go to Spreaker now. Make sure it's 7:15. Listen to Rob Calloway as he brings the HBCU report. Before we sign off, we do that. I did want to again, y'all check out Brian and AD. Their show tomorrow at noon Eastern Time. That's 11 Central. As they have an interview. They have an interview with Big Snacks. So we're gonna see if we can find out some new perspective from Big Snacks. The rerun, as you say. Rob's having too much fun back there.
I'm gonna take
Go ahead, Rob. What you got to say? Go ahead. I know you got a little more to add to it.
I'm gonna take a hit on social media. Look, I know. Before I even came up with this scenario, when I started thinking about it, I was like, boy, somebody go kill me about this. But the thing about it is, like, for real, if you're a big person and you can move, doing anything, dancing, anything.
Rapping. I'm like,
Rob,
Blue Eagle Nation will be after you.
Hey, Rob, you make me nervous. I done lost 50
sorry.
pounds. I was one of them folks that got a lot of love. Now I'm a little nervous. Do I need to put my weight back on?
Heavy D. Just think about it. Think about if you big and you can move, man. You it. You a celebrity. Look at my girl Lizzo. Look at Lizzo.
Oh yeah, a lot of love there. A lot of love. Well, that'll do it for us. This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We have Rob Calloway. 7:15. Jump over to Spreaker right after the show as we start to close out. Get it to you. Dr. Kenyatta Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab again with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, presented by THE Agency. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. As we come to a close, we hope you enjoyed our lecture today. Mike and Charles, see, I've been giving y'all a little love. I ain't playing my drop. I'm trying to give Rob a little time, but if he don't breathe, I'm bringing my drop back.
What's up, Rob?
We waiting, Rob.
What's
up, Rob?
Go have it tonight after the show.
Again, we want to thank you for listening.
The money's in the bank, right?
As we brought up and had attorney Jackson State University give us some love and give us some insight in terms of the COVID-19 perspective. So wanted to make sure we thank him for dropping in and giving us some updates. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyatta DrKenyatta. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Course lecture dismissed.